This episode of GunBlog VarietyCast brought to you by lawofselfdefense.com. Go to lawofselfdefense.com/variety to learn about your state's self-defense laws. Sign up for one of their online or in-person seminars or buy the book Law of Self-Defense and get 10% off when you use the discount code VARIETY at checkout. That's lawofselfdefense.com/variety. Sit back, relax, and take a ride with us on the GunBlog VarietyCast, episode 64. Welcome back to the GunBlog VarietyCast. I'm your host, Sean from NC GunBlog, and with me today is Adam from Guns, Cars, Tech Blog. How are you doing, Adam?
As you can tell by the Barry White voice, I'm getting over a sinus infection that I've had for about a week.
Oh, I thought it was me.
No. Although you are quite beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, it's been a rough week. 20.3 dog walking miles, and my doctor has finally called a halt to the ever-increasing numbers on his scale. He's got me on a diet as well as some medications. So to keep myself honest, I'm at 240 pounds now, and it's my goal to get below 200 again. I'll be giving some fairly regular updates here, probably once a month.
All right. Well, good for you. So remember how the last time we talked, I said, hey, I'm going to start running on Tuesday.
Yeah, didn't you get a sinus infection?
Then I got a sinus infection. So not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the story of my life now. I'm going to do X. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a pretty bad week, let me tell you. These medications are not making it easy. Let me tell you, it's just been
You're a little loopy?
Fuzzy. Fuzzy's the right word. Yeah. Not been pleasant. Been probably the longest work week of my life, and I still got to work this weekend. So
nice.
Not fun. Not
good
fun
times.
At all. Oh well. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. But Doc's like, okay, yeah, that's we need to be done with this now because you're going to be in a shape, but it's going to be spherical. So we need to stop now. Maybe I should have ridden my bicycle this summer instead of not riding my bicycle this summer.
Perhaps.
Last summer, I rode my bicycle all summer, and I didn't have this problem. I was down in the low 200s for most of the summer, and it wasn't too bad at all. But I didn't do it this summer at all, and it didn't work out. And now it's time for Blue Collar Prepping with that bratty kid sister of the gun blogosphere, Erin Paulette. This week, Erin's going to talk about Army surplus clothing.
Come on, every pony! It's time for Blue Collar Prepping with Erin Paulette!
Erin, it's fall. The nights are longer, the days are shorter, and we're moving into the cold and wet part of the year. Do you have any suggestions for dealing with that?
Well, indeed I do, Sean. In addition to preserving modesty and making us look presentable, clothing is essentially portable shelter, as it's our first line of defense against the elements when we're outside. Just think how long someone would last in a blizzard without a proper winter coat. So I'm going to assume that our readers have the sense to wear proper clothing during inclement weather. If they need a refresher on my recommendations for that, I suggest they reread the show notes for episode 15, Cold Weather Survival Outside the Home. Now, Sean, you're former Army, so I assume you still have your old BDUs, right?
Well, I'm sure if I looked in the right box, I could find them. I'm not sure I could fit inside them, though.
Well, you might want to check. Preppers would do well to emulate our armed forces and have a set of ripstop clothes in their preps. Now, old woodland camo BDUs are easy to find and cheap to buy at Army surplus stores, and they are rugged and dependable, able to withstand lots of abuse by soldiers in the field. Like I enjoy saying, if a piece of equipment can withstand a recently enlisted 18-year-old, it will probably resist whatever sort of abuse you put it up to. And it really doesn't matter what camouflage pattern they're in unless you're a hunter. What's important is that they're ripstop, which means that the fabric is reinforced and resistant to tearing, and if it does tear, the tear won't spread. Now, about the worst thing I can say about BDUs is that they're made of a cotton polyester blend, and as I mentioned before, cotton is a terrible fabric in cold weather because once it gets wet, it loses its ability to retain heat. So keeping dry is absolutely essential for preppers during the fall and winter months. To that end, I recommend having a raincoat and something to keep you warm, and that role is filled well by an army poncho and poncho liner, or as soldiers like to call it, the whoopee.
Ah, the whoopee. The only piece of army gear that the lowest bidder didn't mess up.
Yes, and I understand that there are many, many soldiers who love their whoopee to death and have all sorts of fun stories about it. So that's your body warm and dry, but what about your head? Now the poncho comes with a hood, but I don't like those because my head gets too hot when I'm wearing it, and the sound of rain hitting the material is really loud, and it makes it hard for me to hear other things in the environment. So in this case, I have two options, the BDU baseball cap or the boonie hat. Now, the baseball cap that I have is ripstop, it is completely waterproof, and it has fold-down ear flaps to keep me warm in the cold. So it's a good all-around hat, but despite being waterproof, it doesn't do much to keep my head dry. For dryness, I like a wide brim hat that not only keeps the rain out of my face, but also off my ears and neck as well. The wider the brim, the better. Mine covers nearly all of my shoulders. So if you can, don't get the bucket-style American boonie hat. Get the Australian drover style, where you can secure the sides to the crown when you aren't using them. This turns the boonie into sort of a tactical cowboy hat, if you will, and it gives you more options when wearing it. So we've got the body covered, now we're down to the extremities. David Blackard did an excellent segment on types of work gloves for episode 39, and I encourage our listeners to refer to that again. But the one thing I would like to add to that is that if you are using work gloves out in the woods, they aren't very warm. If you get GI-style wool glove liners, they will keep your hands warm even if they get wet. That's the great thing about wool. And you wear these liners underneath your work gloves, so the added thickness may require you to get work gloves one size larger, just be warned about that. But if all you want to do is keep your fingers warm, the wool liners work great as regular gloves. Now finally, boots. What you put on your feet is an intensely personal choice, so I'm not going to make any specific product recommendations. What I will suggest is that a good prepper will get a boot that is as high as possible, has a good thick sole with excellent traction, and is waterproof. Now, since a lot of boots like that are combat boots and are therefore uninsulated, you will want warm socks to go with those. Just like with gloves, I suggest you wear something underneath to keep your piggies from getting frozen. Now, wool socks are nice, but they are expensive and they are thick. A more modern choice is a moisture-wicking polypropylene material, but either one will work. So all of these things really ought to keep you warm and dry through the fall and into the winter, and if you get too cold, you can just put your winter coat on top. Remember, the key to staying warm and dry is layering.
All right, Aaron. It was good to talk with you. I'll see you again next week.
Take care, Sean.
If you'd like to read more from Erin, check out her blog, lurkingrhythmically.blogspot.com.
Felons behaving badly. No charges in fatal shooting during Winston-Salem jewelry store robbery. Dateline, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Charges will not be brought against a person in control of Long Jewelers who shot and killed a suspect during an attempted armed robbery, police said Tuesday. At approximately 3:25 p.m. Monday, police responded to the 1000 block of Haynes Mall Boulevard in reference to multiple calls regarding a shooting. Police also received a call reporting a robbery at Long Jewelers. When police arrived, a deceased male was located in a parking lot near Long Jewelers. The male appeared to have suffered a gunshot wound. A preliminary investigation by Winston-Salem Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division indicates that 3 suspects entered Long Jewelers and confronted patrons and employees with firearms during an attempted robbery. Police said a person in control of the business was in the back of the store when he realized that the business was being robbed. The person in control of the business was aware that the suspects were armed with firearms and that the lives of the customers and employees were being threatened. The person in charge of the business retrieved a firearm and began to walk towards the front of the business. Police said the person then confronted one of the armed suspects and fired 2 shots at the suspect. The suspect was wounded and fled the store on foot, along with the 2 other suspects. The wounded suspect collapsed just outside the business and died. The remaining suspects ran from the area. Police identified the deceased suspect as Suspect 30 of Statesville. Investigators determined that suspect had 2 prior felony convictions in North Carolina for robbery with a dangerous weapon. The events that occurred at Long Jewelers have been under investigation by Winston-Salem police since the incident occurred. Video surveillance footage captured the incident and a firearm was found near the body of the suspect. Police said the evidence and information gathered has been reviewed by Forsyth County District Attorney Jim O'Neill. O'Neill determined that no criminal charges were warranted in regards to the shooting death of the suspect. The investigation into the robbery of Long Jewelers remains active, and authorities ask that anyone with information regarding this incident call Winston-Salem Police Department.
So, Sean, I have a question for you.
Sure.
There's some phrasing in there that the person in charge of the business and the person, what does it say?
In control of the business?
Yes. So there's one that says person in control of the business, and then another one that says person in charge of the business. Is that like a specific legal term in North Carolina?
Well, it may have been the manager, maybe not the owner, but the manager.
It just
the
I don't know.
supervisor.
I didn't know if there was maybe like some weird thing where you can't carry in a jewelry store unless you're in control of the store or something.
I believe that if something is posted, now I don't know if that particular place is posted. Of course, I don't live near Winston-Salem.
Right.
Winston-Salem is approximately 2 to 2.5 hours from here. And of course, I'm not going to go running over there to take a look at the sign.
Right.
But the person who posts the sign is not bound by that sign, obviously.
Right.
The owner of the store can put up the sign and not be bound by it, but also any person who's in control of that store, I guess that would make a difference. Okay. But I don't know that makes any difference at all in this case.
I was just curious. It was a very strange phrasing that I hadn't seen before.
Well, I think that what they were attempting to convey is that the person who was in charge of the store at the time, I really think that had less to do with whether he had some specific legal right to carry at that time, was more that he had some moral duty to protect his employees and his customers, or they were attempting to convey that he would have felt that.
It also reads a lot like a police report.
Well,
less than a news report and more like a police report.
Can I let you in on a little secret?
It probably is a police report.
This is just between you and me, Adam, and anybody who happens to listen to this podcast. Journalists are lazy. They don't actually do journalism. Control-C, Control-V is how journalism is done. They don't actually write their own stuff. They copy and paste. What happens is that there's a press release, and that press release is copy-pasted into the news report.
Mm-hmm.
If the autocorrect doesn't happen,
right.
I'm pretty sure that they would actually copy the misspelling and the bad grammar right into the copy. I mean, like, I'm serious here. These people don't do their own journalism. I've seen it happen. It's horrible.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, I am pretty sure that's exactly what happens. So they already said this person has 2 convictions. So let's take a look at him. DWI level 2. 7/2/2006 misdemeanor, non-class code, robbery with a dangerous weapon, 8/22/2006 felon class D, robbery with a dangerous weapon, 8/22/2006 felon class D, possessed schedule 2 4/24/2013 felon class I, possessed schedule 1 4/24/2013 felon, and CRV. CRV is a dunk. It's not even a post-release conviction. It's a probation violation. If you take a look at this guy's criminal record, you will note that he was never actually sent to prison for anything.
Oh.
2 robberies with a dangerous weapon at the same time, 2 counts. And the only time he went to prison, it wasn't actually prison. He went 90 days for violating his parole on the possessed schedule 1 in 2013.
Okay. That was a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now he's dead face down in a parking lot.
So there we go. Problem solved.
Yeah. Of course, would have been nice if there was a easier way to solve this problem instead of outsourcing this problem to some poor guy in charge of a jewelry store.
Who's going to have nightmares for the rest of his life.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
So Nikki Kenyon's computer is on the fritz. So Nikki is on assignment and will return as soon as she's able to afford either repairs or a replacement. If you followed the pedophile tenant wrecks Nikki's rental home and then disappears into the night saga, well, then you know Nikki's not exactly flush with cash right now, so it could be a while. But as of a couple of days ago, a judge has ruled in Nikki's favor against the deadbeat tenants. If all of this is news to you, that means you're not probably following Nikki on Facebook, so what's the matter with you?
I don't have Facebook.
Yeah, well, I guess you have an excuse, but seriously, you should follow her on Facebook. I mean, this stuff is pretty funny. I make Nikki use all the polite words here on the podcast because, I want my mom to be able to listen to this podcast.
And my kids.
Right. Your kids need to be able to listen to the podcast while you're listening to it in the truck, right?
Right.
Assuming they can hear it over your truck.
Hey, now.
Well, I've been in your truck. It's kind of loud. Them tires and the air noises.
The engine.
The engine noises. Yes, that's true. But on Facebook, she uses whatever words she wants, so read them at your own risk. Check the show notes for a link to follow her on Facebook and let her know that you heard of her on the GunBlog VarietyCast. Plug of the week, WhisperSync. So I found out about this. I've read about this before on Amazon. And I'm like, why does anybody care about this? WhisperSync is this thing that they've been plugging on the Kindle app, on the Kindle, on Amazon. It's this really cool thing, right? You can get a book on Kindle. And I know, Adam, you don't read.
No, I don't.
You don't read. You're
I
like,
don't read.
I don't want to read.
I don't read. I'm not on Facebook. I don't really watch TV all that much.
Right.
I got kids. I got nobody got time for any of that.
Right. Well, you can get a book on these neat little things called Kindles, right?
I've heard of these, yes.
Right. Well, as you know, I'm doing another podcast where we do a lot of reading of science fiction and fantasy books. And I started reading a really, really good science fiction book called A Long Time Until Now by an author called Michael Z. Williamson. What I did not realize, because you can't tell by looking at a Kindle book how big it is, this book is huge. To give you an idea, it was 22 hours audio. Now, that's like Harry Potter long.
Yeah, that's pretty long.
I started reading it, and I'm like, I'm just not getting through it, right? So I just broke down. I'm like, look, I'll just get the audio version of it, and I'll listen to some of it while I'm in the car. Well, for $7, I bought the book on Kindle. Well, for an extra $2, they'll sell you the audio version of it too. I'm like, that's a great deal, given that it's like $30 if you just buy the audio version. So I bought the audio version of it, and that automatically, you just download it to your smartphone. And then the neat thing about it is that it synchronizes across the platforms. So you're reading along, and then you go to your car and you punch the button to listen to it in your car. And it says, oh, well, you read to this point. Do you want to start there in the audio? Well, yeah, of course I want to start there. Why would I want to start from the beginning? Start from where I was reading. Ding dong. And it starts reading to me where I finished. Awesome. So I'm driving along and it's reading the book to me. This is great. And then, I go place to place. I do my stuff. I get back home and I open up my Kindle and I start reading again. And it says, all right, well, you are at this point. You want to start there? Well, yeah, of course. And I start reading there. This is pretty cool. So over the course of the next couple days, I just keep reading my way through the book back and forth between the audio and the print version, back and forth. And very quickly, I work my way through this enormous freaking book. It was absolutely worth it. But 622 pages, I think, is what it works out to. 22 hours of audio if I just listen to the audio. And I just, slam through it. And I think it worked out to, with tax, it was like $7, $8, $9. It was less than $10 for both parts of it. So really, really good deal. I really honestly cannot recommend it enough. If you're going to read and you have to be in cars and, back and forth, if you're commuting, that's the way to go. You don't pay a lot more and you don't have to stop reading your book just because you're transitioning. And if you're reading something very big, it will save you a lot of time. So I could not, when I first read about this WhisperSync thing, I was like, why would anybody do this? This doesn't make any sense. And then I found out exactly why this was a good idea. And, I know a lot of times when I'm telling you these things about things that you can get on Amazon, I'm telling you all about them because I'm going to get a little something. If you buy something on Amazon, we get a little bit of money back. So occasionally I like to give you something for free. Well, there's a couple of books on Amazon that are free right now. I spent last weekend at HonorCon. For this other podcast, I really wanted to go to HonorCon, which was here in Raleigh, because I wanted to interview this random author guy named Marco Close, who many of you will know as being a, relatively well-known gun blogger. You might have heard of him. And super nice guy, by the way. Well, I go to HonorCon and randomly start asking these guys, hey, do you guys mind if maybe I, grab your honored guest and try to pigeonhole him for an interview? And I could not possibly have been treated nicer by a bunch of random people who, didn't have to even bother with me. And they're like, oh yes, we will totally help you out. Oh, and by the way, what can we do for you? Can we, do you have everything you need? Can we bring you anything? What do what can we do to help you out? So one of the things that they wanted to make sure that I knew, just in case I didn't, because I'd never read any of the Honor Harrington books. One of the things that they wanted to make sure that I knew was that the first 2 books in the Honor Harrington series are free. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that too. So On Basilisk Station and Honor the Queen are both free for Kindle. So I've got those in the show notes. And since a long time until now, I told you about that. That's not free, but one of Michael Z. Williamson's books, Freehold, which is, I've already read it, is a fantastic book. That is free. That's in the show notes as well. So if you happen to have a Kindle, or if you have some sort of a tablet, iPad, something like that, get the Kindle app, and then you can read Freehold, On Basilisk Station, or Honor the Queen. Those are all free. Pick up those. Check the show notes. Pick them up. They're awesome. If you don't have a Kindle, you don't have a tablet, get a Kindle. $50. You won't regret it. Absolutely, you should totally pick one of these things up because, or actually, no, you should totally not do this because you'll start reading a lot. You will suddenly start reading a whole lot, and you will enjoy yourself, and then you'll not be Adam anymore.
And you don't have to have a tablet to get the Kindle app because my wife reads,
on the computer, right?
No, she reads on her phone.
Well, yes, I know some people who do that, but I can't figure out how you would squint and read on a little bitty phone.
So we don't have Apple devices. I have a Note 4, and she has like some Motorola thing that's like, a 9-inch screen or something crazy. No, I'm kidding. It's like a 5.3-inch screen, but it's plenty big enough. So she reads every night.
My Kindle's a 6, so yeah that's big enough.
Yeah.
The Kindle Fire 7 is $50. That's about as cheap as you're going to get for anything. If you happen to have something that's big enough to read on now, the Kindle app works.
Yeah.
iPhone 5, probably not a good choice.
Probably not. But a real phone would work fine.
Something a little bigger. Check out the show notes. There's a couple of free books in there. Kind of a gateway drug. Be real careful, especially with that Freehold book. Really, really awesome. Absolutely awesome book. I just started On Basilisk Station, and it is $2 for the audio. So I got the book for free, and I got the $2 audio version. I'm listening to that while I'm driving around doing my work. So that's pretty cool. So, I think the guys at the HonorCon thing kind of captured me. So I'm listening to them. Like, oh, damn you people.
They're playing.
There you go, being really nice to random strangers. Evil, evil people.
And now you're plugging their con too.
I know. Stop being so nice to random people. This is just, you're supposed to be mean to random people. They could not possibly have been nicer people. Well, this week our special guest is the Yankee Marshal. He's going to talk about getting involved politically. David Atkinson has experience in both the military and law enforcement, but his personal beliefs regarding self-defense and self-reliance were forged long before any of that. David has been involved in the online and offline gun community for over a decade. For the past several years, he's had a visible presence on YouTube as the Yankee Marshal. Welcome to the show, David.
Hey, thanks for having me.
One of your most recent videos is A Message to Cowards in the Firearms Community. While it wasn't the main subject of the video, there was a strong message of be visible and get involved. What's the danger if gun owners stay hidden and never get involved beyond hashtags and Facebook posts?
You can get involved at different levels. I mean, get involved can just be as simple as writing a check for $20 to your local, gun rights organization. But right now, I see there's too many people in the gun community. They're so afraid that if someone sees your gun, that they're going to run off and write a law saying you can't have a gun. And I think it's the opposite. I think until they see that it isn't just criminals that have guns, they're going to keep passing laws as if it is just criminals that have guns. You see so often nowadays that a lot of people don't own firearms. There's a lot of people, it's just not part of their world, and we kind of forget those people. And they're driven by this media portrayed reality that only bad guys have guns, and bad guys use guns to get it over on good guys. They never see it the other way around, which is actually far more common, that good guys use guns to defend themselves than it is if you get murdered by a guy with a gun. Your chances of being murdered by someone you don't know with a firearm or any other means are so small. The people who do get murdered by firearms are generally self-inflicted wounds through suicide, gang-related murders, or murders of passion, which is what most murders are. So they see this trumped-up idea that all bad guys have guns and they're going to come get you, so they're like, well, let's take away the bad guys' guns. And they forget to see that it's guns doing good more often than they do bad in the hands of good people.
Something I've noticed about the gun community is it's splintering a lot. It's becoming a problem. Are there a couple of things that we as gun people should be doing to bring our community together, or at least prevent it from splitting any further?
One of the main things we should be doing is we have to start realizing that there are lots of shades of gray in a lot of the things they like to do. Like open carry. They like to pretend it's a black or white issue. Like, oh, if you open carry, you're either doing it right and the only way you could possibly do it is open carry, or you're completely wrong. Or they say, if you don't open carry, you're a coward, etc. There's a lot of gray there. Sometimes you can open carry and be benefiting the movement greatly. And then there's other times you can do nothing but cause harm. So you have to realize that there's different shades in this movement here. You have to understand that there's good and bad to be done. And the other thing we need to do inside the gun community is when we start doing gun things, let's keep our other interests out of it. If you stand up there and go, vote for this guy because he's pro-gun and he hates gay people and immigrants, okay, you've just lost everybody that you could have had because he was pro-guns, because they're like, I don't hate gay people and I don't hate immigrants. So muddy your message a little more, why don't you?
I think that's a fair point. I think that we need to try to stay away from too many other issues when we're just talking about guns.
Yeah, I've tried to be involved in the offline gun community as much as possible. And I used to go to more events and more rallies, etc. And in recent years, it's gotten really bad to where it's really hard to be involved in these events because they've become like the stomping grounds of the extreme in our pro-gun movements. The people that sponsor them also want them to be, let's all wrap ourselves in the flag and praise Jesus while we wave our AR around rallies. And I don't want to be involved in that.
I can see your point. It probably doesn't do a whole lot of outreach to uninvolved people to do that too, does it?
No, it's like you're trying to win over the masses by appealing to 3% of the people.
What does appeal to those people who are not already involved in the gun community?
I think the best way to appeal to people that aren't already involved in the gun community is with facts, not fear. It's if you are frightening more people than you're enlightening, then you're not winning anybody, really. You're just preaching to the choir and then pushing the other side further away. It's just the facts. You just have to present people reality. Like, to deal with mass shootings, you don't deal with the tools they use to do them. You deal with why these people are doing this. What's wrong with our culture that this happens in our society? You have to deal with the realities of more people defend themselves with a firearm every year than get killed with one. You have to deal with the reality of how unlikely it is that anyone's ever going to use a firearm to harm you, or that your kid's going to get a hold of it and shoot their sibling. If you are a responsible gun owner, things like that don't happen to you.
I have noticed that there is a great big every gun is pointed at you coming out of the anti-gun community.
Well, yeah, and the gun community does a great disservice now because unfortunately, gun rights and gun culture has become a packageable, profitable business now for the tactical bearded instructor types, And since it became a tactical, genre and it became a marketable business. They've promoted this idea that guns are these, don't touch it until you've been properly trained. Don't touch it till you've had at least 20 hours under my tutelage or you're going to get yourself killed. Or if you even try to use it without knowing exactly what you need to do, you're going to die. And I'm like, that's completely counter to reality. Every day, 95-pound, 80-year-old women use a firearm to defend themselves successfully with no training. In fact, out of the 800,000 people that defend themselves with a firearm every year, I guarantee you not even 1% of them has any formal training. And yet they manage to be successful. And when we take that away from the gun community, when we take that away from guns in general, that they are the great equalizer and that they are a simple tool, we do ourselves a great disservice.
If someone listening right now wants to get involved in the gun rights fight for the first time, where would you suggest they start?
Online is a great place to start. Go to your local gun forum. Most places have local forums that are set up for their state or their general area of their state. See what's going on. See, is there a litter pickup you can be involved in? Like right now, one of my gun forums is doing a cleanup of one of our BLM areas. So you can go out there to a Bureau of Land Management area, be involved in a cleanup, get things, be doing a positive thing for the community, be visible. There's just all kinds of things that are scheduled.
All right, David, it was good to talk with you. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me. Glad you could talk to me.
You can watch the Yankee Marshal at youtube.com/the Yankee Marshal.
Fun with headlines.
I don't even know where to begin with this one. All right, here's the headline from CNN. Meet the men fighting ISIS with hunting rifles and homemade mortars.
Cool. I would like to meet these guys.
I know they. I'm thinking. Some grizzled old men, right? Maybe because all they got's hunting rifles. And, maybe a couple of welders, right? I mean, we're talking this is like Red Dawn kind of stuff. The first one, not the remake.
I didn't watch the remake.
You're much better for it. It was a video game. So I saw this article and I was like, oh, yeah, because I'm kind of interested in the stuff that's going on there. Yeah, they're actually talking about the YPG, which is the military arm of the Kurdish people over there.
Wait. The YP who?
The YPG?
The Kurdish People's Army?
People's Protection Group, yeah.
They're
quasi-government, yeah.
Wait.
They have 30,000 people. They have 30,000 soldiers in the YPG. Now, there's a couple of videos attached and a couple of pictures, and I'm just going to tell you what I did see. Lots of AK-47s. Couple of AK-74s, couple of RPKs, some RPGs, some Browning M2s, and what's that Browning M2 based full auto grenade launcher?
The Mark 19?
Yes, they have a Mark 19 in the pictures.
Where in the world did they get a Mark 19?
I don't know. You know what they don't show?
Hunting rifles?
Hunting rifles. Period.
Well, hunting rifles are... the Model 700 is a hunting rifle, and they're pretty accurate.
Yes.
I mean, I would have no hesitation about taking my Remington Model 700 and, shooting somebody at about 400 yards with it.
Yeah.
I mean, assuming that I had somebody who needed to be shot, it was at 400 yards.
At 400 yards, yeah, right.
Right. There's,
Clearly, I mean, you're not just,
not just some random person. No. It would have to be somebody who really, really needed to be shot. It had to be legit, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to go murdering somebody, but assuming there was a legitimate target at that range.
Right. And that would be the much better weapon than, say, the AK-47 or an RPK or an RPG.
I think it would probably be easier to hit somebody at that range than with my AR, given that I have no magnified optic on my AR.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, these guys, they had underfolders and whatnot. This is actually long-form journalism and a couple of videos and whatnot, so I don't really want to read any of it. But, yeah, this is like saying, meet the people who are fighting Hitler with hunting rifles and, showing the Ranger Battalion's snipers from World War II.
Yeah.
It's like, really, guys? Really?
This week, Barron tells us that just because someone tells us there's a problem doesn't mean there is a problem. In Tech Tips. You
are damaging my calm.
Tech Tips with the Barron. Barron, I just heard about Keyfarce, an attack against KeyPass. Isn't that the password manager you use?
Oh God, here we go. Everyone panic because someone says we should.
So I guess the concern is just a little bit overblown.
First, yes, that is the password manager I use. No, I'm not running off to get a different one. Well, the thing is, it's well known that you cannot protect the contents of your memory on a compromised machine. Yes, you can try, but eventually it will always fail. Quite literally, this attack was the equivalent of hitting the print button on the open password database and saying, "Look what I got, it's so insecure." Truthfully, this attack works against any password manager. The database was open and unlocked, and you got the data out. Isn't that the point of unlocking it? It's encrypted and safe at rest and in transit. It is not encrypted and safe while in use. Otherwise, how would you read it? Yes, you can do the double lock thing, but even if you did have it encrypted in memory, you still have to have the key somewhere, and, well, eventually, they will get in.
Well, what does this really mean then?
The same thing it means every time, Pinky. If you think that your computer is compromised, do not open critical files and rebuild the computer from the ground up. Computer systems as a whole need to be looked at as a trusted system. If the Chinese said, "Hey, here, use this room so you and your friends can talk," we pinky swear we won't listen. Would you believe them?
No, I remember the U.S. Embassy in Russia that was bugged when the U.S. arrived.
This is the same thing. If the sanctity of your house is compromised, understand that nothing opened on that computer can be safe.
Well, that's simple enough. Thanks for the explanation. When are you going to be back?
Well, I'm not sure on that one, Sean. My wife is going in for surgery Thursday, so for everyone listening, that was last Thursday. The recovery time is going to be long, but she should get most of the use of her arm back. So between work, the kid, and taking care of the wife, I need to have a little bit of time for me. So hopefully in a month or two, I should be back at it.
All right, Barron. It was good talking with you, and I'll see you again sometime soon.
Yep. See you sometime soon, Sean.
Barron still blogs at the-minuteman.org.
Barron sort of glossed over it, but that surgery his wife had on her wrist, yeah, they basically rerouted the tendons in her wrist so that her wrist will actually, work. Barron, as you know, has a brand new baby, and now he has a wife who just basically came out of surgery. So we're going to miss him, but having a wife who went through the miracle that is modern medical procedure myself, I totally understand that he's got his priorities in the right order, taking care of his family first. I'm sure you all will join Adam and me in wishing Mrs. the Baron a full and very quick recovery. The J Block.
So, I finally got a rifle and optics to not completely blow up on me at the range.
So, you took it into somebody and had him put it together for you?
Actually, no, I actually did this one myself again. So I got my Remington 700 and my Millett TRS-1 scope to finally work together. Folks who read my blog when I was blogging might remember that back in March of 2014, I bought a Remington 700 and this TRS-1 scope and an EGW HD 20 MOA scope mount. So what that means is that basically cants the scope 20 MOA forward. So the first time I went and took it out, I guess I didn't really secure it very well, and we couldn't get it zeroed. And then the second time I went out, apparently in me fiddling with trying to zero it the first time, I actually broke the scope. So
wow.
So I had to yeah.
Schlep rock.
So because of that 20 MOA scope mount, you basically have to bottom out the adjustment for elevation. So when I did that, I went one click too far. It disconnected inside.
Uh-huh.
So that was bad. So I sent it back, and that was in June maybe of last year. It's now October, so 14/8. I don't even know how it's been a long time since I've taken this thing out. My friend James and I went out to the Gallatin Gun Club in Gallatin, Tennessee. They have a 300-yard total range. We were able to sight it in. We started at the 200-yard berm so we could see the splash, and I was off by 4.5 feet to the right and 2 feet up. It was crazy. So used that to kind of get it in to be close to paper, and then I was clover leafing at 100 yards pretty quickly after that. 1 3/4 inches above the zero line at 100, which put me at zeroed at 2. I don't know if you know this, Sean, but modern rifles and optics, once you get it dialed in, it's just math. as long as you've got good technique. There's no mystery to it anymore.
Well, no, not really. I mean, they're mechanical devices. They only work one way.
Right. But the tolerances for the $700 gun, or I don't even think I paid $700 for it. I think I may have paid like $450. And a $300 scope. 20 years ago, this thing would have been like a $5,000 rig.
Probably true.
So it's really amazing what you can do now with long distance stuff.
It's amazing. We live in the future.
I love living in the future.
And now a word from our sponsor. You know what will happen. If you ever have to defend yourself, you're going to end up in handcuffs. Are you trained to win the fight after the fight? Sure, you can draw, aim, and put 2 in the 10 ring, but have you learned your legal self-defense? Do you know the law? Go to lawofselfdefense.com/variety to sign up for your legal self-defense class. Each class is tailored to the laws in your state. Attorney Andrew Branca will teach you the law, not just what the law says, but what the judge's legal opinions say, what the jury instructions say. Sure, you could risk spending the rest of your life in prison because you followed the advice of some gun store counter jockey, or you could spend the day with the man who literally wrote the book on the law of self-defense. Carry a gun so you're hard to kill. Know the law so you're hard to convict. Go to lawofselfdefense.com/variety to sign up for a legal self-defense class in your state. And make sure to use discount code VARIETY at checkout to receive 10% off.
We've just gotten word from our sponsor, Andrew Branca, at Law of Self-Defense, that somewhere around 15 of our listeners have taken his class. Sean, you've taken the class. I've taken the class. We've both said how good it is. I'd like to hear from some of our listeners.
That's a good idea, Adam. If you've taken Andrew's Law of Self-Defense seminar, please send us some feedback. The best feedback would be audio feedback. Pull out your smartphone and record your thoughts on his class. Email that audio to sean@seansorrentino.com and we'll run it in a future podcast. This podcast runs on your donations. Go to GunBlog VarietyCast.com and click on the PayPal link on the sidebar. You can make a one-time donation of any amount or subscribe for as little as $2 a month. It's a small amount from you, but you'd be amazed at how much it helps us. So go to GunBlogVarietyCast.com and subscribe today. It's time for another patented weird audio fisk. Once again, Hillary is touting Australian gun grabs in This Week in Anti-Gun Nuttery. So hey, Weird, what's going on this week?
Well, so it was just announced that Joe Biden will not be entering the presidential race, and Jim Webb and Link Chafee are out. So that leaves dark horse Martin O'Malley against frontrunners Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And Bernie has made it clear he isn't in this race for the hunting.
The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
Sorry, all you Bolsheviks feeling the burn, but he doesn't want the job. So that makes this recent statement by Hillary Clinton all the more scary.
The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons.
So first, though, they weren't automatic weapons. But more importantly, they weren't just talking about semi-auto guns or so-called assault weapons. They banned all semi-auto centerfire rifles, all semi-auto and pump-action shotguns, and most handguns with bore diameters over 9mm.
Offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns.
According to my readings, the compensation for this buyback was based on fair market value. I have my doubts about that. Since when do you read about the person who talks about how well they were treated with an eminent domain case? Also, this takes no account for collector's value. Talk to somebody about SKS prices in the 1980s. They were going for $75 a whack. I bought my SKS a few years ago for under $200. Go have a look at the list prices now. Even if the person was paid in full for exactly what the gun was worth, the cash that they got is worth less now. They were paid $1 for a winning lottery ticket. Also, I have guns that belong to family members. Some of them have zero market value, but the value of them to my family is near priceless. Also, this really wasn't a buyback, it was confiscation. This wasn't fair trade no matter what the money was offered because it was all done at the point of the gun. Turn in your guns today and get paid, or we find your guns tomorrow and you get jailed for possession of contraband.
Basically clamp down going forward in terms of having, more of a background check approach, more of a permitting approach.
Background checks, the panacea of anti-gunners. Also the one law that clearly and unambiguously would not stop spree killers. And licensing, aka a poll tax, like they have in Chicago. So all this stuff proven not to work. But of course, the Australian system was vastly more onerous than anything we've ever seen here. Funny how she doesn't seem to mention that.
But they believed, and I think the evidence supports them, that by offering to buy back those guns, they were able to, curtail the supply and to set a different standard for gun purchases.
They did limit the supply and set different standard for gun purchases. What they didn't do was make the country any safer, and there is some very good evidence that the laws made things worse. Plus, once again, this is another law that only affects the law-abiding. The criminals can still get their guns just like they get their drugs and their slave labor.
Now, communities have done that in our country. Several communities have done gun buyback programs. But I think it would be worth considering doing it on the national level if that could be arranged.
First up, no. All the buyback programs here have been 100% voluntary and not based on market value. It's either a flat rate system or a tiered system where, say, a handgun would get X value and a long gun would get Y. And they don't work. Criminals don't turn in their guns, and if they do, it's a way to fence a stolen gun they can't sell on the street or destroy criminal evidence with literally no questions asked. They are a waste of money, and they're taking advantage of people who don't know the value of their guns.
So I think that's worth considering. I don't know enough details to tell you how we would do it or how it would work, but certainly the Australian example is worth looking at.
She was lying when she said nobody was coming for our guns. She's lying now that she says she doesn't know how it would work. It's been done before by many other countries, and it didn't help the general public, cost millions for a smaller population than the US, and screwed the lawful gun owners. Again, they are coming for our guns. We talked about this way back in episode 11. It's only more obvious now. Let everybody know we cannot let the Democrats win.
All right, Weird. It was good to talk with you. I'll see you again next week.
See you next week, Sean.
In addition to appearing here, Weird is a regular host on The Squirrel Report and blogs at weirdworld.com. That's WEERD world.com. And I would just like to point out that Australia has like machine gun raids all the time where they're getting homemade machine guns.
Yeah.
We don't really have that here.
Not so much, no.
If I get the same penalty for a .38 special or a Sten gun, which one am I going to have if I'm a drug dealer?
It's easier to build a Sten gun than it is to build a 2245.
Exactly.
In fact, it's easier for me to clean a Sten gun than it is for me to clean a 2245.
I believe that.
So, which one am I going to build? Which one am I going to have? Stuff that grinds my gears. People who beep their horn when they pull up to somebody's house. You know, when I was a child, that might have made sense. You know, if you're so freaking lazy that you can't get out and knock on somebody's door or ring their doorbell, you know, you pull up to the house, you beep the horn, hey, come on out, let's go. You're in such a hurry that hey, beep, 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 let's go, right? You know, you're such a lazy ass that you can't get out and knock on the door, right? You know, let's go, beep, 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 let's go, right? You're so freaking lazy. You got a freaking cell phone now. Call.
Good point.
Okay? Pull the little box out of your freaking pocket, dial the numbers, and say, hey, man, I'm out in the driveway. Come on, let's go.
Or text them, because that'll beep inside the house.
Right. Whatever. But beeping your freaking horn? Why do you have to disturb your freaking neighbors? Are you so inconsiderate that you got to bug everybody else because you're so freaking lazy that you can't get your fat behind? And trust me, when we're talking fat behinds, I know what I'm talking about here. You can't get your fat butt out of the car that you got to lay on the horn. Stop it. Pick up your phone and make the call. If you're out in front of somebody's house laying on the horn, but you don't know the telephone number, well, there's your problem right there. You don't need to be out in front of that house.
Sean, I'm gonna postulate a guess here. I'm gonna say that this has been a recent occurrence in your neighborhood.
Oh no, this is not a recent occurrence. This is not a recent occurrence. This is an ongoing occurrence. I live right near an apartment complex.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm not saying that we should station Predator drone overhead with a horn-seeking missile. I'm not saying we should do this. I'm just saying I would not complain.
You don't think the missile would make more noise than the horn?
Sun Tzu said that you should kill one and frighten 1,000.
Ah.
I'm just saying we could take a little, just one, and the rest might fall in line. The word would get out. I'm just saying. So what's going on with you?
So last weekend was the end of daylight saving time, not daylight savings time.
It seems awful pedantic.
It is. And let me tell you where this comes from. I did not know the difference until I was in college. And one of my favorite professors, he spent about half of a lecture period talking about how there is no S in daylight saving time. There's no second S. And that's stuck with me. And now it really it gets me. But yes, that's totally pedantic. And I didn't really have anything else this week. I have the best job in the world, and I don't really interact with the general public all that much. So,
and you've already complained about the donuts, so
right. And I could complain about other drivers some more.
Yeah,
that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Like how I almost got shoved into oncoming traffic by a brand new Honda Civic because they had to be in front of me.
Yeah.
Couldn't be behind me or in front of the car that was 30 yards behind me. They had to be in front of me. I could complain about that, but no, I'm not going to do that because I complain about traffic too much.
Yeah, I understand. I'm surprised at actually how decent traffic is most of the time, and I drive in a lot of it. But no, most of the time it's not too bad. I will say that Charlotte is pretty bad.
Yeah?
Stay out of Charlotte. You know what? I don't think it's Charlotte. I don't think it's the people in Charlotte. I think that Charlotte's roads are just poorly designed. I don't think the people in Charlotte are bad. I think that their highways are just designed by idiots.
The problem is for us, our highways are designed for the growth that we needed 2 years ago. So by the time they actually widen the road, it's what the road needed to be when they made the design 2 years ago.
What I ran into when I spent a week in Charlotte was they have multiple roads that come together at the same spot. And so you're cutting across oncoming traffic to exit, so you're fighting with people who are entering to exit, and it just automatically creates chaos. It's just horrendous. And it immediately causes people to hate each other, and then they get angry. And I really don't think it's the people in Charlotte. I just think it's idiotic designers.
That is also a perfect description of the downtown loop in Nashville.
So is it the only time you don't get Nashville nice?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's our show for the week.
Thanks again to Rob Allen for our music.
And Firearms Policy Coalition for their support.
And thank you for listening to the GunBlog VarietyCast.
Constructive criticism can be sent to Sean at SeanSorrentino.com.
And hate mail to WizardPC at GunsCarsTech.com.
Like and share us on Facebook.
If you have Facebook.
And if you receive this podcast through iTunes, make sure to leave us a glowing 5-star review.
Show notes can be found at GunBlogVarietyCast.com/episode 64.
This is a URS production.